Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, Digital Media Relations Manager here in Chesterfield. Very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, we are working our way through the 5 magisterial districts as we do every year. Today, we welcome Clover Hill's Jessica Schneider to the show. Ms. Schneider, welcome to the podcast again. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
I very much appreciate you being here. Very much appreciate your time. I know this is a busy season for all sorts of things. I know you've had a busy day, which we will get into here in a little bit as we record this on Monday the 24th. We are in the middle of all the kinds of fun budgets things, and there are community meetings happening. I feel like every night, there's a new one somewhere. We will get into that just in a minute. I want to start with just sort of a, I don't know. It's been about a year since your first appearance on the podcast. How would you describe the last year and your experience as a part of the Board of Supervisors so far?
Action-packed.
More action-packed than you thought it would be.
Well, I think because I kind of anticipated that, they said this is a part-time job, and I think they lied, but that's beside the point.
You want to find the person who told you that.
That's okay. So that was one of the reasons I decided not to go back to a full-time job. Yeah. And so I have been doing this on a regular, and I will tell you that my husband does not see me as much as he used to. So he has to schedule when I'm going to make him dinner.
I was going to say, as I remember, that was a big focal point when we talked the first time. Was about the cooking and things that you like to do. Yeah. I'm guessing you do a lot more running around than you maybe expected.
Yeah, I think last week I was not home for dinner one night.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, it's that time. And it's certainly that time of year as well. Because as I was saying a second ago, we're obviously in the midst of all the various budget processes and things. As we record today, the proposal has been presented to the board. The various community meetings are continuing to be held. Public hearing is set for on Wednesday as we record this today. Adoption potentially on April the 9th. So I'm curious to get your point of view on what you think are some of the key things to be mindful of during this entire budget cycle as we work through it.
So for me, I tend to be the heart-centered person of the board.
Right.
Well, at least I feel I am, and
right.
I just really worry about the most vulnerable people of our county,
right.
Especially given the chaos that's going on at the federal level right now,
right.
And wanted to make sure as we were planning that we have dollars that we could shift over if we need to cover things such as our HUD grants that if we don't get them, for our CDGB grants for nonprofits that handle things like housing insecurity and food insecurity and the most vulnerable communities in our population. And I just think that we're going to have to be a little more agile and
that's a good word.
And move around a little bit more this year possibly. So I think that Matt and Gerard were very forward thinking about that, and because I had asked, and they said that they were willing to put that into thought and try to set aside and be able to move things around a little and be a little more conservative on the front end, and then hopefully be able to shift things around. And I think that's just what we're going to have to do right now.
Yeah, because it certainly seems like, I haven't been here, as long as some folks like, my friend Dave has been here forever. But for all the years I've been here, this is certainly the most unique budget process I've seen, at least in terms of all of the various unknowns that are sort of in the air. And certainly the lessons I think that folks have learned through those years certainly lead to the point in the conclusion you just described.
I think that schools is probably one of those areas also. With school free lunches, special needs teachers and education services, a lot of those are federally funded. And so we really just need to keep an eye on those things and make sure that those don't fall off a cliff somewhere. Now,
obviously, this is the first chance I've had to talk to you since the Southside Speedway, or to talk to really any of the members of the board since the Southside Speedway announcement. I know we like to say that things are part of a process, and there's no doubt that was a process and one that continues. How excited are you, though, about the plans that are officially now moving forward for bringing racing back to Southside?
Super excited. I think the community is also. I think I've had one person that was angry about it coming back, but the rest of the people I've talked to are very excited, happy. I think that it's definitely took a lot longer than I would have liked for it to happen, but I think that I'm hoping we are moving in the right direction, and we can get racing started sooner than later. I know that the partnership is trying to figure out the best approach and what they want to do, all the things that they want to get done before they start their new races. There's a minimum, of course, that has to be done, but I think that there might be some discussions going on now as far as, how much more they should do before they open. But I think we're looking at probably the most 18 months, but I'm hoping maybe sooner that we can start doing some things. I really think the community is excited about it based on the amount of people that were at the presser. It was amazing.
Yeah. And certainly just the idea of having cars back there for anybody in this area. That's just a huge thing. And certainly, the site being what it is obviously a lot of work that still has to be done.
Yes.
I like to, usually with these podcasts, I like to sort of start wide and drill a little bit. So let's get down to some Clover Hill specific stuff. Let's start with transportation. I know there are always things that folks are curious to hear about when it comes to that. And I know in Clover Hill, one of those things is the Link tour that you did today. Let me talk a little bit about that, because that's something that, one, you literally just did it, so that's a great time to visit on something. But why do you think that service is so beneficial as well? What did you do today, and why do you think that service is so important?
So we've been planning this since I think we started. So it's been just over a year since we started the Link micro transit in the Cloverdale district. So that basically goes from the Chippenham all the way to just past Harbor Point on the other side of 288. And then outside of that area, the neighborhoods on either side of Hull Street. Deborah Gardner was there as well at the beginning. And so we decided we were going to do a ride along. We went out to lunch. We brought along some of the staff here from the county. We made it into a Women's History Month luncheon as fun. Well. So it was a bunch of ladies from the office.
That's cool.
The Link came and picked us all up at my house. It's an awesome program. You just enter the address in the app. It's GRTC on the go. They pick you up there at your door, take you where you want to go. You can re-enter a pickup later on, and they can come and get you again and take you right back home. All fare free. So today when we went out, there were 8 of us. We all went out. We went to lunch, and then they took us back home. We also went to one of the restaurants that's going to be in Restaurant Week.
That's right.
There's
that tie-in there, right, with Restaurant Week. That's right.
Correct. Yeah. So we wanted to try to do some videos and stuff and promotional things for Restaurant Week. As well as, like I said, Women's History Month and the Link, and to get all those things tied together, because there's so many awesome opportunities and tie-ins that happen with all of those things. And so we were looking at some of the specials for Restaurant Week, and some of them are alcoholic drinks, like, wineries or breweries. And, if you could get picked up go and have a couple drinks at, take a whole, the coconut margaritas at Latin Quarter, and then just, have them take you back home. We're not out drinking and driving either. And so that's a safer community choice also. So we're just looking at all sorts of ways of tying these things in.
Yeah, I know, and I know that that's a service that certainly has a lot of benefits in a lot of different directions for a variety of different folks, for a variety of different needs. So it's good to get that sort of attention on it, certainly, as you were just describing.
I actually have a stack of the maps in my car in the door, and I hand them out to people when I see people walking on Hull Street. I'm just like, can you please take this with you, because this is a much safer option than walking along Hull Street. So and as I understand it, it's very similar to a lot of the different ride sharing services that you might be familiar with. The difference is that instead of putting your stuff into an app and using a service and getting home and paying for it, it's fare free. Yeah, it's fare free. It's just a ride.
Yeah. Now, also on the transportation front, I know there's a lot of work that's being done on 288 as you approach Hull Street. How would you say that progress is being made at this point at that project? Because it certainly feels, at least the portion in the median has we've gotten to a place of I don't know, perpetuity, right? That's the way it's going to be. But it's that far right lane that seems to be continuing to do a lot of work.
Yeah. So funny thing is, my son actually is a subcontractor on the site.
Oh, yeah?
So I get updates from him on a regular. But his portion of it is going to be done April 1st, but then there's going to be continued work. And I just talked to Chessa in transportation, and they're aiming at getting done in October.
Oh, that's great.
So
yeah.
Originally it was January, and they're looking to get done ahead of schedule. That's awesome. And then also I talked to her about in that same area, the Bailey Bridge connector is another option that's going to help move traffic a lot better in that western end of Hull Street. It'll remove traffic going west on Hull because people that normally would go down to Spring Run to go out to Lake Collington in that area, they could take the Bailey Bridge connector over to Bailey Bridge. You basically fly over the top of 288 and then connect to Bailey Bridge and take you out that way instead, so that it keeps more traffic off of the westbound.
Right.
And so that is going out for advertisement with VDOT in May. Hopefully they will choose the contractor by summer. Early summer, and start by fall. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so that sounds like a good amount of progress, especially if that other.
Although there'll be more construction.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, right? Is with any of these sort of projects, you're going to go through a little bit of a headache before you can get to the place where it actually brings not just relief from the headache, but also relief from the symptoms and the things that were actually causing it. That's great news. Now, moving on to some other topics in your district, I'd like to check in on a few things on the capital improvement front. I use that term sort of loosely, but I know we recently had the groundbreaking of the park at River City Sportsplex. I just was curious why you felt like that was such an important moment for the community and certainly for that facility as well.
Well, I think a lot of people have been asking for a better family, a larger family park, especially one with a splash pad.
Right, yeah. Those are very popular these days.
Yeah. So this is going to have that. I think given the fact that, it kind of raises the Sportsplex up a level because it's not just sports fields now. It's actually going to have a component that is for the whole family. You've got big brother or sister playing in a tournament. Mom and dad have to entertain the other child. They could divide forces and go and take one kid over to, play in the splash pad or on the climbing apparatuses, the zip line. It's just a lot more opportunities of entertaining and having family fun in a park that is open to everyone. Yeah.
And that amenity piece of it, I know that Dr. Casey talks a lot about the idea that, these facilities, they're not just great for just the tournaments, right? It's like it's a random Tuesday and you can just go over there. And now, especially having that splash pad, like I said, those are super popular. So I know that there are a lot of folks very excited about that coming to River City.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are just like, well, all the tournaments are always happening there. Well, I think about 75% of the playtime on those fields is local. Our local communities. Right. And so it just happens to be that, the weekend tournaments bring money and resources back in to allow us to keep that open so much for the public. So, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I will have a Christmas tree. It's already been planted.
Do we have to wait for it to grow all the way?
No. Okay. It's a 32-foot tree.
So when you say planted, you don't really necessarily mean like with a little, like a little spade and a little bucket of dirt. You mean like
this is not a Charlie Brown tree. No. And so, all the other guys, all my other counterparts had their Christmas tree lighting this year, and I did not. And so I made sure, and Neil found me a tree. It's a 32-foot tree. And it's in the center of the park.
Okay, great.
And so it's already been planted. They're going to put protections around it. And then every year at the Sportsplex, they have the Shooting Stars field hockey tournament over Thanksgiving weekend. Right. And we will be having a Christmas tree lighting
That's awesome.
That weekend.
That's awesome. Speaking of parks, I know there's a lot going on at Rockwood these days, too. It seems like every time I turn around, there's something else we're doing at Rockwood. What can you tell me about what can you tell folks about the plans there as they get ready for the 50th anniversary?
So, 50th, it's the oldest park in the district, or in the county. I've had a lot of people reach out saying, why are you getting rid of all the baseball diamonds? I'm just like, we're not, we're redoing them. So all of the parks are getting a facelift or getting redone, new dugouts. The two bigger ones are supposedly going to get turf. We'll see if that happens. I think it's taking a little longer than we had planned. We are probably going to aim for fall reopen on those. We are also working on redoing and enhancing the community public gardens in Rockwood Park, making some of the plots smaller to offer like a variety of sizes in case, people don't want a huge, 20 by 20 garden.
Who doesn't want a 20 by 20 garden, you know what I mean?
So, and we're adding, fencing around it to keep animals out and putting irrigation and individual built some of the raised beds for other folks, just some amenities that weren't there before. And so I think that'll be, we're breaking ground or doing a ribbon cutting, I think they're on the 1st of April. Yeah. So that'll be another option or awesome thing. And the Latino Farmers Market will be coming back that weekend also on the 5th of April for the summer.
Which will be, as folks listen to this today, it'll be literally several days away. So that's good timing. Before I move on from this section, I wanted to, you mentioned Link earlier. We talked a little about sort of that service. I wanted to see if we can get an update on the renovations over at La Pratt. I know that there was a tie-in there with Link as well because of moving some of those services because of the renovations there. How are things going?
Yeah. So it sounds like, well, I drive by it all the time, but it looks like they're not going to have the library open for voting for primary. So I wanted to let people know that the primary voting for May is going to be moved to the Lutheran Church of Our Savior at 9601 Hull Street. Okay. But then by the November voting, we will have it back open at the meeting side end where they do the voting. Right. The rest of it will not be done until probably early 26.
I was going to say, I think it was winter was the last. So it sounds like they're about on schedule for that portion of the building. I know that folks are very excited about all of those renovations.
Yeah. I really, with the GRTC Link thing, I made sure before the library closed that GRTC would approve to get the Link route extended. Right. About, it's like, I don't know, 2 stoplights. Right. To include Clover Hill Library, so that there was still a library that would be available on the free route of the LinkedIn. So I just think it's so important to have that resource open for community members.
Absolutely. All right, I'll get you out of here on this one, as I did with Ms. Ringel and Dr. Miller, and I will with your other fellow board members as we go forward. What are some of the challenges that you think you see facing the county as a whole and your district specifically as we go through the rest of 2025?
Well, again, I think the funding thing is trying to find a normal, let's put it that way, I think maybe. I am really trying to focus on some exciting things around domestic violence shelters. We're working on trying to find some answers there because we do not have a shelter here in the county. Right. I'm trying to focus on some development. We just got accepted into a cohort through NACO for finding and increasing affordability in housing in the community. So that's something I'm excited about learning and trying to figure out how we can help out with that.
For sure.
So, I don't know. I'm always looking for ways of helping people. I think that's just my MO. So, yeah.
Well, I very much appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking to us a little about things going on in Clover Hill. I very much appreciate your time. And like I said, I know this is a busy time. So thank you very much for coming on by.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Make sure to check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia one word. On Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that your shows are sold. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating or review, we greatly appreciate that. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website at Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit some feedback anytime, make a suggestion, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That is Comcast Channel 98, Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. Now, thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent Media Services for all they do. My thanks to you for joining us today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care.
From blogs to podcasts. And I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again.
Weekly video segments and newsletters.
Social media, the latest community news.
And this is your Chesterfield News Minute for September 19th.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.